Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is John Plotzapati, and today I'm joined by my co-host Ben. And we also have a special guest featuring at the end of the episode, Wayne Flask from Moviment Graffitti, who's here to talk about Malta's construction industry and some recent developments in a Dingli road alignment project. And these are your 5 stories for today. Joseph Muscat resigns from Malta's parliament. Robert Abela stands by schools reopening in light of confirmed COVID-19 cases at school. Adrian Delia advises resigning supporters to do what they feel comfortable with. Maltese athlete becomes first ever local cyclist to compete Gruelling Everesting challenge. And remnants of a medieval church threatened by Dingli road alignment project.
All right, so let's go ahead and discuss the first story of the day. Joseph Muscat resigned from Malta's parliament. So yesterday, during a parliamentary sitting, it was the first parliamentary sitting following summer recess, Joseph Muscat, Malta's former prime minister, announced his resignation. Joseph Muscat had previously stepped down as prime minister back in January amidst a political crisis that was linking his office to Daphne Caruana Galizia's murder. It's interesting to know that Joseph Muscat also led the Malta Labour Party to 2 successive record-breaking victories, which interestingly enough brought change to the country through his liberal policies. However, his string of successes was brought to a sudden halt by a flurry of corruption claims. You can mention Panama Papers, electric gas, VGH, to name a few. Now, of course, this announcement triggered very polarizing reactions. Some people were very thankful that Muscat is finally out of his position in power, whilst others, citing him as the best prime minister that Malta has ever had very heartfelt words of thanks for him. I believe we have a video of a few of his final words in Parliament. Yep.
Ringrazzja lilek, Sur President, ħanieħu l-kelma l-aħħar darba f'din il-Kamra. Ma nfurmajx laqas il-sħabi għax ma xtaqx, ma nħobbx ċerimoni f'dan ir-rigward. Nixtieq ngħaddilek ittra fejn fl-aħħar diskors tiegħi, Sur President, bħala Prim Ministru mexxej tal-Partit Laburista, kontet li fi żmien ftit xhur se nkun qiegħed nirreżenja minn membru parlamentari. Hekk kif illum reġa' beda jiltaqa' l-Parlament wara l-waqfa tas-sajf permezz ta' din-littra, qiegħed nagħti r-riżenja tiegħi minn membru parlamentari. Wara aktar minn 12-il sena nservi f'din il-Kamra u wara li qabel servejt għal 4 snin fil-Parlament Ewropew.
And with that, we can move on towards second story of the day. JP.
Yeah, so from one prime minister to another, this time Prime Minister Robert Abela is standing by his decision, for schools to reopen. Despite a number of confirmed COVID-19 cases at schools, several schools in fact around Malta, Abela yesterday, when speaking to journalists outside Parliament, played down calls by the teachers' union to shift education back online. That's the UPE we're talking about here. Despite the fact that there have been a number of confirmed COVID-19 cases, specifically 7 educators have tested positive for COVID-19, and Malta was informed across 4 different schools. During, as he was talking to journalists, Robert Abela, said, he would act according to the health directives despite what's going on, in the field. He said that, he still would send his daughter to school, and he still is sending his daughter to school. On the other hand, the UPE, led by Graham Sanson, said that, as things stand, the way things are going with these confirmed cases in school and educators testing positive and perhaps students and others as well, that, if nothing's done or there's no shift to online learning, that this will end in a disastrous conclusion where, you could be faced with the fact that eventually we go online learning, but there won't be any educators to take the classes because everyone's infected with COVID-19. So, schools have opened, schools are reopening. Some haven't reopened yet. But obviously, it seems that within just the first few weeks of schools reopening, teachers and educators are starting to test positive. COVID-19 pandemic is still here, and this is something that definitely needs to be addressed. But there's obviously that awkward balance of how important is physical education, as in people attending school and being with the teachers, compared to the health of everyone else and the public. And the two sides, the UPE and teachers unions and the government, seem to be on different spectrums of this. But according to Robert Abela, his words are, he'll continue sending his child to school and will continue to do so as long as the health directives mandate that.
I believe we have some footage of Abela's comments that he made to Lovin Malta yesterday.
Jina nimxi mad-direzzjonijiet li jagħtuna d-Dipartiment tal-Edukazzjoni flimkien mad-Dipartiment tas-Saħħa Pubblika. Bejniethom fasslu il-protokolls li huma rigorużi u nemmen li huma bilanċjati. Jiena bħala ġenitur nista' nitkellem illi batt lit-tifla tiegħi skola mill-ewwel hekk irġajna għamilna. Illum nemmen illi xejn ma jissostitwixxi l-importanza tal-preżenza fiżika fil-klassi u qed nitkellmu dwar żvilupp ta' ġenerazzjoni f'dak li huwa żvilupp soċjali u żvilupp akademiku.
Now with that, we move on to the third story of the day. Adrian Delia advises resigning supporters to do what they feel comfortable with. So upon Bernard Gregg's election as leader of the opposition, the Nationalist Party has been faced with a flurry of resignations. We've had Hamroon Birkirkara, Marsan Birzabuja, PN councillors resign. We've also had Maria Dalli from the Valletta Committee, Alan Said from the Rabat Committee, and René Muscat from the Bormla Committee put forward their resignation. Interestingly enough, Teresa Bormla, a social media personality, was very adamantly nationalist, yesterday announced that she's going to be switching to Labour. Now Adrian Delia, in front of Parliament yesterday, in response to questions put forward by Lovin Malta, advised these resigning supporters to do exactly what they feel comfortable with. Also, he thanked them, and he also recognised their contribution to the party throughout the past few years. Now we're going to be moving on to a video with Adrian Delia's comments.
Jekk huma taw ir-reżenja, naħseb il-tweġiba min-naħa tagħhom tawha huma diġà. Jiena nista' nitkellem għalija nifsi fil-waqt illi nirringrazzja minn qalbi nies bħal daw li semmejt inti illi mhux issa kienu parti mill-Partit Nazzjonalista mal snin twal, naħseb taw ħafna lill-Partit Nazzjonalista. Rridu nirrikonoxxu dak il-kontribut u nirringrazzjahom. Kulħadd però jrid jara l-kumdità tiegħu kif u fejn jista' jibqa' jagħti minn dak li jista'.
Now Bernard Gregg, who is now the current PN leader, was obviously came out saying he was saddened by the fact that these nationalist supporters have kind of resigned from the positions. Obviously, the party that is so kind of dismantled and kind of trying to recover needs all the support it can get. As I said, he was saddened by the decision of these supporters to resign from the position. Moving on to the next story, our fourth story of the day, quite a nice and impressive story of a Maltese athlete who became the first ever local cyclist to compete at the gruelling Everesting challenge. Now, this Everesting challenge was completed by Mary Claire Aquilina and required her to ride up and down the Meleha Hill, Tapinelu actually. She rode up and down it 69 times, lapped it 69 times, covering a distance of 290 kilometers with an elevation of 8,850 meters. This is the same height as Mount Everest, hence why it's called the Everesting Challenge, and she took a total of 14 hours to complete. It was done over the weekend while most of us were out enjoying ourselves and relaxing. Mary Claire Aquilina, who's 42 years old, was cycling up and down the hill from Saturday around 5:15 p.m. till Sunday noon, so it was overnight as well, quite an incredible feat. And while she's the first cyclist to do this, first local cyclist, she wasn't the only one that attempted it. There were 8 other cyclists who joined her. In fact, it was organized by local endurance athlete Fabio Spiteri, who organized the Everesting Challenge here in Malta. But it was Mary Claire Aquilina who was the only one to complete the challenge. Quite an incredible feat. She's the first and only Maltese person to complete it, but I guess she's paving the way for others to try it out next time. Quite incredible, in fact, and super great news. What do you think?
I mean, I doubt I can make it up the hill once, so let alone 69 times. So kudos to Mary Claire. On to our final story of the day. Remnants of a medieval church are threatened by Dingli road alignment project. Now this takes us back to the road alignment project, which has been hitting the headlines throughout the past few days. And now in this latest development, Gerard Lapira, a Dingli resident and the owner of the fields which are being threatened by this project, announced that the Santa Dominica church in Dingli, which was built back in the 15th century, is being threatened by this project. Now, to give some context to this project, the road alignment project is set to connect El Museo and Daħla ta' Sinja. Now, these are very minor roads, however, Infrastructure Malta supported this project by saying that this will serve to give access to these streets, give emergency access to these streets. So fire engines, ambulances through this project can now access the street. That is what Infrastructure Malta said. However, at the same time, a number of architectural artifacts will have to pay for this. This project is set to destroy a number of rooms used for farming, a number of old carob trees, and of course a number of fields. Now we're soon going to be joined by the Moviment Graffitti activist Wayne Flask. Moviment Graffitti was actually protesting against this development last week, and the organization was actually successful in postponing the initiation of the project. However, before that, we've got some short footage of the protest to show you.
Nerġgħu nfakru n-nies għal xiex qegħdin hawn il-residenti ta' Dingli u l-bdiewa li ma sidien tal-eliq li wara dan il-ħajta sejjeħ qegħdin jipprotestaw u wafqu fil-fatt din il-gaffa enormi illi l-gaffa saret is-simbolu ta' għadu għal ħafna nies, illi din il-gaffa hija lesta biex tibqa' għaddejja minn fuq dan il-ħajta sejjieħ, siġar tal-ħarrub li għandhom 200 sena, hemm l-eliqi li jinħadmu mill-bdiewa u mingħajr ebda permess u notifikazzjoni illum il-ħaddiema ġew biex jibnu triq qalb dawn l-eliqi.
Good morning, Wayne, and thank you for joining us this morning on Lovin Daily. Now, we've got a few questions for you. First of all, about the Dingli Road Alignment project itself, and also about the construction industry in Malta as a whole. So, JP, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, so obviously the most contentious issue and the one that's been in the news the past few days is the Dingli Road Alignment project. But, you know, Moviment Graffitti were there protesting it, and now I'll play devil's advocate here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Infrastructure Malta came out saying that, you know, that this project or this road alignment is being done to allow, you know, emergency services to access the roads in case there was ever, you know, an emergency, that ambulances wouldn't be able to access some residents or get to them, and, you know, could result in fatalities. I mean, what do you make of that, and would you still oppose this project in light of, you know, those?
Definitely, I would definitely still oppose the project. First of all, on Friday we stopped the commencement of works, and we're aiming to stop the whole project. Infrastructure Malta is very good at sugarcoating its bullying tactics with PR. I would like to ask anyone from Infrastructure Malta what serious cases of lack of access to ambulances were there in the last 20 years since the local plan has been drawn up, because suddenly it is very, very strange that there was such an urgency to start building there. And the story about the chapel, which was published yesterday in the media, I think is a clear indication of why there was such haste in commencing this project. As another update, we have yesterday written to the Superintendent of Cultural Heritage asking for the scheduling of this chapel, and also for, we've written this morning to the Prime Minister, the Environment Minister and the Transport Minister, asking them to review the local plan and also uphold the integrity of this chapel. Review of the local plan is also needed. First of all, this road was earmarked as a road 20 years ago. From what I can see from the area, nobody in the area feels there's such a need for this road. And especially the high cost, it's at the high cost which is going to come, which is destruction of more fields, the potential destruction of this chapel, which has been built ages ago, and it's not in a very sound structural condition. So we tend to lose out of this project.
So prior to Infrastructure Malta bringing up this whole issue of the emergency service and whatnot, residents in the area never expressed concerns in this regard or whatnot. This was something that was brought up by Infrastructure Malta in light of the protests and whatnot, correct?
They didn't even have time, residents, because Infrastructure Malta just turned up. First they sent their surveyors, then they turned up last Friday with heavy machinery, without going through the formal motions of notifying officially all the residents. So I'm not very convinced. I'm a bit worried about all the speed and bringing this road forward.
All right. Now I believe that this project in itself is only indicative of a much larger problem in Malta. Now the Prime Minister Abela said that construction inevitably is a key pillar to Malta's economy. What do you make of this statement?
Construction is a key pillar of the economy, but there are quite a number of issues linked with that. First of all, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, but that's up to the ministers to decide. And also the high cost that everyone's bearing, from residents to people being killed and buried in their own homes. I think construction is, yes, a key pillar of the economy, but people in the construction industry are doing as they please, and there's no respect for the laws, there's no enforcement from the authorities' side, and we've had way too many accidents. We've had 3 houses, 3 apartment blocks collapsing last year. We've had Miriam Paj being killed this year in March. We've had countless accidents involving workers on construction sites. Who's going to stop these bullies? This Saturday we are launching a 128-point construction reform document with proposals spread over 6 distinct areas, including the enforcement and the regulation of the construction industry, but not just. We're looking also at roads and transportation. We're looking also at high-rise project, at policies, and how board members and the PA are appointed, for example. And we hope, that the authorities will be receptive to this proposed reform, because it will also send out a strong sign from their side as well. It will tell the construction industry that yes, you are a key pillar of the economy, but you have to abide by the rules.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that in this proposal here, you talk about high-rise projects and stuff. Malta's starting to see more of that happen. Are you opposed totally to high-rise buildings? What is your take on it? Because there's obviously some aesthetic beauty to having some high-rise buildings and whatnot and stuff, but are you totally opposed to this happening?
Personally, speaking on my own behalf, the aesthetic beauty is quite debatable, but before making blanket statements about whether we're completely against all kinds of high-rise projects, we're not saying that in the reform. We're saying that high-rise projects have to occur first within a context, in areas where they fit.
Right.
And in areas where they fit also mean not destroying communities, not destroying neighborhoods, not burying thousands of people in the shade, as is planned for example, Pembroke. And there's another issue with high-rise projects. Recently, something that came out in the 2019 annual report published by the Malta Developers Association, which clearly states black and white that there's no demand for these high-end and high-rise properties, because the level of the finishes is quite poor, and Malta does not seem to be that attractive to that kind of client as well. So why are we building stuff like this? Why are we insisting on it?
Okay, so I believe another issue with the construction industry in Malta, apart from the obvious health risk that it poses to some people, is the fact that sometimes construction in Malta looks plain ugly. Do you think there should be some sort of master plan which people in the construction industry should abide by, so that there's a sense of uniformity between buildings?
People in construction, planning, and the architects as well. I think it involves a lot of different stakeholders. And as regard one of our proposals, which we'll be launching Saturday, is for the creation of a master plan until that has a long-term vision of up to 2050. SPED should be replaced. There's a number of policies that leak water from all sides, and there's a lot of loopholes that need to be plugged, and I'm not saying we can remedy the damage in that sense, don't get me wrong, it is something that even the architects say, but I think that we can make it a bit better than it is. Otherwise, right now, there's a complete laissez-faire. Everyone does whatever they like, whatever they please. No respect for the context, no respect for the surroundings, no respect for the residents, no respect, nothing. It's just plonking money into construction, and this is the result.
Okay, on a different note, and to end this episode of Lovin Daily, last week it was the 7-month anniversary of Miriam Parch's tragic death. Do you think that enough has been done to bring justice to the Parch family, and what do you think the next step forward should be in this case?
First of all, no, I don't think that enough has been done. Actually, I believe, as an outsider, because the Parch family will obviously know more than I do, but I don't think that much has been done in that regard. We have last month asked for a public inquiry into the death of Miriam Parch. So far, this has been the second call, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been ignored, and we're going to continue pushing for that. The people need to know. People need to know if they're risking their lives inside their own homes. And in general, people also need to know the workings of this industry, because not enough people know how it works. How it works is not actually the construction process, but the lobbying that's going on behind the scenes, the control that the development lobby has over politicians from both sides of the house. These are things that the public needs to know. We're not inventing this stuff, it's there.
Okay, very interesting, but I believe this brings us to the end of this episode of Lovin Daily. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you have a day full of lovin'.